right. Well, moving on now. Wednesdays here on the program, we'd like to put the spotlight on the farm women's group, Common Ground.
Common Ground is a group of farm women who want to be a resource for consumers who want to know more about how their food is grown. In this segment, we hear from volunteer Leslie Boswell on how putting cover crops on fields after harvest is a sustainable way to help with weeds in the spring.
We have often talked about cover crops here on Pure Nebraska. Now some farmers are thinking about using them after the harvest as well. We're going to find out more about this. Joining me now is Leslie Boswell. Leslie, it's good to see you today.
It's good to be with you, John.
You guys are thinking about planting rye after the harvest. Maybe tell us more about this.
We have been using a lot of organic matter on the fields for many years with the no-till and the minimum till, to help protect the ground, help preserve the soil, and preserve the moisture that's in the ground. But we are also this year planning on adding a cover crop of cereal rye, which can be planted immediately after harvest, and then it'll get a good growth in the fall, carry through the winter, and then we will kill it back next spring when we go in and we plant next year's crop. Now, the reason we're thinking about doing this is actually a couple of reasons. One of them is to protect the soil. One of them is to hold the moisture in the ground so that it doesn't blow away with the wind through the winter. But another thing is for weed suppression. My husband was injured earlier this spring and he didn't get to do a second spraying on one of our fields, and it's a weedy mess. But if we go back in there and we plant this rye, then that is going to help suppress those weeds, suppress the seeds, not allow them to germinate, and then it'll help control them for next year so that we won't have as big a problem going into next year as if we didn't do this.
Is it cost effective in the end to do that?
It can be very cost effective. The seed is not actually that expensive. It is an expense, but you just go in and plant it. You don't have to do anything else to it. And then next spring when you go in and spray it down, you're probably going to be spraying about that time anyway. So it might be one extra spray, but it may not be two, depending on how your program works.
Consumers have often been concerned about sustainability, the amount of maybe, chemicals that are used on farm fields. This is an example of a way that you're reducing that, using some natural ways to keep the weeds down.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce trips across the field.
Thank you for telling us about this technique. And I know you're going to be along a little bit later with a recipe to share as well.
Yes, I am. It'll be a good one for a cold evening.
Which we're seeing lately. Okay. Thank you, Leslie. We'll see you in a few minutes.